You all good? You all good? Yay. I'm also good. Hebrews 11 verse 8. Hebrews 11 is an incredible portion of Scripture. It's a chapter of faith in the Bible. This morning, I'm just going to share my heart. This morning it's not so much going to be a preach or a talk. It's more sort of, it's a family gathering. I mean, obviously, it's always a family gathering, but it's going to be a family chat. Hebrews 11 verse 8, it says, "By faith Abram obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive as an inheritance." So love, for those of you who were here last Sunday when Grant preached, I love what he said. Our inheritance is linked to a people. Just provoked, it just stirred something in my heart that in the Old Testament, the Promised Land was a physical place, and in the New Testament, the Promised Land is linked to a people, and inheritance is linked to a people. So he went out to receive an inheritance, and he went out leaving the familiar, not knowing where he was going. I think there's things of God sometimes that we close ourselves off to because we don't understand. We don't know where we're going. We can't see. And we just shut it down because we can't perceive it with our carnal minds. Where we don't understand why things are happening or what God is doing or what He is seeing. And it's in seasons like that that obedience is required. Like Abram here. He simply just obeyed. And being obedient doesn't make you successful. It just makes you right, because faith is never wrong. But it makes you right with God. And when you are right with God, you will be successful. All the people in the Bible who were successful at this one attribute, they were simply obedient. And sometimes when God calls you to do something, when He asks and He requires something of you, it sounds silly, it doesn't make sense, it's nonsensical. And it doesn't look successful in the eyes of the world, but I want to tell you, it just makes you right, and when you are right with God, and that makes you successful. A lot of people in the Bible, they were obedient, and without faith, it's impossible to please God. And faith is never wrong. Faith requires risk. Faith requires us to step into a realm that we stepped in this morning, where it feels maybe uncomfortable, where we don't engage our physical senses, but we engage and we perceive with our spiritual senses. And that's the place where God has called us to live from. And I think there's seasons when God don't tell us where He's taking us. He simply tell us who you're going with. And I believe this is a season like that. I think for the church globally, where God is redefining so many things. God is shaking so many things. And He's really teaching us how to trust Him in the dark when we can't see. So today, I want to take a moment. I want to talk about the church. I want to talk about God Adventure, about our community, who we are, what we are, and why we are. Because here's the reality. So often we are so comfortable in understanding how things work. I don't know about you, but I just find a lot of safety when I know what's going on. And so often we put our faith in a prophetic picture that God's given us, or a word, or our faith is in knowing what's going on. But sometimes God is quiet because He wants to relate to us as sons and daughters. Son, I just actually need you to trust me. And He doesn't show us where He's taking us. He's just saying, I want you to go with these people. And here's the reality, that sometimes we get so used to something that we take it for granted. I mean, coming here to church on a Sunday. So many of us, if we have to be honest, we take it for granted. And we can't kind of lose the value or the awe or the sacredness of this. We forget the value of something. I remember years ago, it's probably about 10 years ago, we had so many crime here at our church. Literally, I was probably at least 2 or 3 times every night. I was here at the church, being met by the police here outside because there was a break-in here at the church. It was just a crazy season. I remember the one night I was here, it was actually New Year's Eve. It was about 11, or I can't remember, and I was sitting here at the back waiting for the police to arrive. The security company was already here, and I was just sitting here. And I was just over it. And me, myself, and the 2 of us were sitting there, and we were feeling sorry for ourselves. And immediately the EO anointing jumped on me. And I was just, and the next thing, this SMS came through at 11 at night, saying from someone that I knew, and he said, me and a few guys just came together, and we just felt God wanted to bless you with a mountain bike. And yeah, that is a wow moment. And so I was blessed with this incredible mountain bike. That mountain bike is probably worth more than the cars that we drive, or at least one of them. And man, I was so blessed with that car. I mean, it was at the time, it's the top of the range mountain bike. It still is. And I remember, man, I just don't want to get that mountain bike dirty. I mean, it's a mountain bike. What do you do with mountain bikes? You go and ride through mud and in the dust and over mountains, and your bike gets dirty. But I was so particular. Cycling, and there's a puddle like going around it. And I mean, how many of you can relate when you've got something new, when you've got a new car, you've got a new whatever it is, you take care of it because you understand the value of it. You don't want to get it dirty, you don't want to get scratches, and if it's your car, you vacuum it regularly, or you wash it, or maybe it's a new carpet or a couch, whatever it might be, you take particularly more care of it. And then what happens after a year or a couple of months? Come on, you can relate to that. I should not show you pictures of my mountain bike right now. And Gerald, if you say anything to Steph, then you're going to be in trouble. I've got this pastor friend, and he's my mountain bike police. He gives it to me. If he sees I don't take care of my mountain bike. But the point that I want to make is sometimes we become so used to something that we actually stop taking care of it. We become so used to something that we take it for granted. And I never want to become so familiar with something that I take it for granted. Even in a relationship, me and Jen, we've been married for 24 years, and I don't want to get to a place where I take our relationship for granted. I don't want to get to a place where I stop investing in our marriage. There's relationships with people in this room that I know literally for decades. And I don't want to take that for granted. I don't want to get to a place where I just show up and it's okay. But the challenge is that we become so familiar that we take what is precious for granted. And so I want to talk about our community. I want to talk about the church. I want to talk about the church in general, the ecclesia. And I think sometimes we don't realize the beauty of what we have. We don't actually fully appreciate what a privilege it is to be able to gather together and how sacred it is. I don't think we often really stop and pause and just, wow, what a privilege it is to be able to gather together freely. I mean, if you go and do a Google search or go and do some research, you will find that the fastest growing churches in the world today is persecuted churches. And now there's a lot of reasons why that is, but I was thinking about this, and I think one of the reasons is that they don't take for granted what they've got. Whether it's China, whether it's the Middle East, persecuted churches, when they come together, they know there's a price that I have to pay to do what I'm doing, because I can pay with my life for this. And I want to tell you, they are growing because they don't, the whole time in their mind, they hold together the fact that it is a privilege to be together. And so I just want to take a moment to reflect on the beauty of what it means to be the church here in East London, or if you are visiting us from wherever you come from. Because sometimes I think we just come into the routine of things. We wake up, we show up, we do things, we go home. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes, well, it was a no band Sunday, it was, But let's just take a moment to pause and reflect on the beauty of what Jesus paid for, so that you and I can be here together today. And not just us today, but across the city, across the globe. Thousands and thousands of people gathering together in places of worship. What an incredible privilege that is. All because of what Jesus did. And the price that He paid. And I like how David, he writes this prophetic song in Psalm 69, verse 9, and he says, "My love for your house has my heart on fire." How many of you came this morning to church and your heart was just on fire? How many of you during the week when you gather with other believers, your heart is just on fire? He goes on, he says, "My passion for your house consumes me. Nothing will turn me away, even though I endure all the insults of those who insult you." Nothing will turn me away from gathering together. The passion for your house, the passion for your people. And I don't know if you've realized this, but man, I love Jesus. I'm in love with a man, his name is Jesus. I can't go one day, honestly, I can't go, I've been saved for 30 years, so I can't go one day without communing with Him, speaking to Him, being in the Word, being in worship, fellowshipping with my Jesus. More and more as I grow in Him, I just want more of Jesus. Honestly, there's a desire in me where I just want more of Him. I just want to fall more in love with Him. And the more I've discovered, the more I want of Jesus, the more He steers me back to His people. There's moments, man, I actually just want to be with you, Jesus. And there's moments like that. But the more I desire that, the more He just points me to His body, to the rest of Him. I think if COVID taught us anything, it taught us that we're not meant to live in isolation. I mean, think about it. If someone breaks the law, what happens to them? They get thrown into prison. If someone messes up in prison, what happens to them? They put them in solitary confinement. Why? Because that's the greatest form of torture, to be in isolation, to be alone. But Jesus, I've discovered that Jesus, He gave Himself, He gave His life to me. But I've discovered maturity is when He takes my life and He gives it to a whole bunch of other people. And I think so often the lie that we believe is that, Jesus, thank you that you've given your life to me, and now it's me and Jesus, and I don't like to be with all these other people. And I want to propose to you, and this might be challenging to some of us, but in your relationship with Jesus, if you're not falling more in love with humanity today than you were in love with humanity yesterday, then you don't actually have a clue what Jesus is all about. Because Jesus is about people. The more you want of Jesus, the more you will fall in love with His church. Even especially with those who are not, who don't know who they are yet. The DNA of Jesus is found in people, in His people. There's just a whole bunch of Jesus in all of us. And if I look around this room this morning, there's so many incredible Jesus stories. So many incredible Jesus stories. I can probably stand up here for hours. And I can invite Jen to come up here, and she would spend hours. And I can call others of you. You can come up here and you can share story after story of incredible Jesus moments. And it's so important that we remember what Jesus is doing in our life, who we are together. Because I can look in this room and I can see, man, I remember when you went through that difficult situation. I remember when you went through hell, when there was no hope, but I can also remember when people came around you. And I can remember how our people gathered around you and just help you through that season. Story after story after story. And I don't want to take that for granted. My own life, I'll be honest, most of the greatest pain that I've ever experienced has been in church. Why? Because we are relational human beings. Guess what? The greatest moments of healing and celebration and healing and restoration I've also found in the church. In His body. And I want to simply propose to you that who we are and what we are is sacred. It is so sacred. I lived in the UK for almost 5 years, and I had the privilege of traveling in Europe a little bit. And I remember going to these incredible cathedrals, beautiful old buildings. And it's almost eerily when you walk in these old buildings, it's eerily quiet, and most of them are just tourist attractions, sadly today. But I always remember walking in that, whichever cathedral it was, that stood there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I always thought, man, this used to be a sacred place. It's maybe become quite secular and touristy now. But this used to be at some stage, this used to be sacred ground. People used to encounter God here. I wonder how many God stories there are. Hundreds and hundreds of years, hundreds and thousands of people who had radical God encounters in this place. Sacred places. Well, guess what? This is our cathedral. With all the damp, with the leaking roof, with the windows that are almost falling apart. This is our cathedral, and this is sacred. And of course, it's more than just a building. It's all of us. I mean, let me just remind you that the Holy Spirit is in everybody, everywhere, anytime kind of mood. Worship doesn't just happen here. It doesn't happen in a specific way. It is expression in so many different ways. There's no divide between what happens here on a Sunday and what happens on a Monday and Tuesday and the rest there. But there's also something about getting together and gathered together here as His bride, as His body. But even in all of that, this is our sacred place. And this is a place where we meet every week. And of course, not just on Sundays, but Sundays is a big chunk of what we do. It's not the only thing, but it's important. And again, it's just incredible walking here in on a Sunday and you see the different faces. Some of you I know very well. I've seen your children grow up and now are taller than me. Some of you I don't know that well, and I hope to get to know you well. But I look around this room again, I just see so much of Jesus in all of us. And it amazes me, the diversity. During the week I teach at the Monte, and I just see the diversity of the school, young and old, different cultures, people from different backgrounds. And I think sometimes it's so easy that we actually forget what God is doing amongst us. It's so easy just to take it for granted. And I like what Bill Johnson often he says, the easiest way to get discouraged is when we forget what God is doing. When we focus on what God is doing, we will never be discouraged. But so often we focus on what is not happening or what we don't think is happening or what has not happened yet. And so I want to invite all of us on a God adventure. Maybe for some of you this is new. For some of you, it's maybe what I'm sharing this morning is convicting and challenging. And maybe for some of you, maybe for most of you, I'm preaching to the choir this morning. And by the way, I don't want you to think in your heart, man, so-and-so need to be here this morning. They need to hear this. I'm so glad this guy next to me is here today. He needs to hear it. But we're just a unique bunch of people that believe in Romans 7 verse 9, where it says all nations, all tribes, all backgrounds, all tongues will coming together and worship the one and only King, King Jesus. We're a diverse group of people following and chasing after one God. We're not a purpose-driven church. We're a presence-driven church. It's about His presence. And this is what GA is. That is what we are. That's what we represent. And of course, we haven't arrived yet. But man, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate our progress. Religion celebrates perfection. In the kingdom, we celebrate progress. And I believe when we rejoice together, we start to build together. I remember growing up as a kid, often my parents used to get us lucky packets. And in that lucky package, you used to get this card. It's called a hologram card. And so this hologram, you would have a picture on it, and depending on what angle you turn it, the picture would change. How many of you know what I'm talking about? And I think that's such an incredible metaphor of God adventure. Some of you look at God adventure, look at it, wow, that's incredible. But then you look it from wow, I never saw that. I mean, today some of you for the first time saw some of the damp and the things on the walls and all of that. But I think that's such an incredible picture of God adventure, because you look at it that one way and you tilt it a little bit and you see a different picture. And you might see one part of God adventure like, wow. And someone else may be standing there and they saw a different angle of the same picture and saw a complete different picture. And I love that about God adventure. There's so many different elements of church, about the church in general, that stands out for different people at different times of their lives. But the one thing that is important when you think about a hologram, what is needed for a hologram to reflect those different pictures is light. And there's different times in my life where God highlights some different part of God adventure, or a part of the city in the church in the city, or the global church, or whatever it might be. He highlights different elements. I'm like, wow, I've never seen that about your church. And it's so important to ask God, what are you highlighting to me right now? Because what you're highlighting to me might not be the same that you're highlighting to that guy. Or what you are highlighting to God Adventure might not be what you are highlighting to Christian Center. or to another church or another expression of the body. But Jesus, show me what you are highlighting to me or what you want to highlight to me. Lord, show me what I'm not seeing right now. And it is only when you are mindful of what God is doing and start celebrating what God is doing that we start to see these different elements of the church and be like, wow, I never saw that. For some of you, God Adventures Oasis, you simply come here because you want to drink. You want to drink because you're thirsty. Maybe for some of you, God Adventure in this season is a hospital. You like, man, I'm wounded, I hurt, I'm weary, I'm battle worn. I just want to get healing and restoration. For some of you, this is a place of belonging. I mean, obviously, everyone wants to belong, but you actually come here because I want to be known and I want to be part of something bigger than myself. That's the beauty of church. For some of you, this is a place to imagine and to create, to write songs, to come up with creative ideas, to start. For others, it might be a place where you start dreaming with God. God, what is your heart for my city? God, what is your heart? What is your heart for the nations or for my region? God, how can I partner with what you are doing? God, what is your heartbeat for my life? What is your heartbeat for my family? For others, it might just be a place where, man, I want to come and serve and contribute. All depends on what God is highlighting to you in various seasons. And what God's highlighting to me might not be the same that He's highlighting to you. See, religion will tell you that we all need to look the same. We all need to look the same. We need to think the same. We need to all do the same thing. Years base 1, years base 2, years base 3. Now, I'm not criticizing that. Maybe that's what God's highlighting to some environments. He's not highlighting that to us, I believe. So I want you to say this with me. This is our house. Let's say it again. This is our house. This is my house. This is our culture. I'm part of His body. Now turn to the person next to you and say, we get to take part of this together. We get to take care of this together. This is not Corné's, this is not Jane's, this is not Ross or Michelle's. This is not Yolanda's or Scott's. This is us. This is we. And we are just a little expression for a greater church that are meeting across the city, across this province, across the nation. And I want to remind you, this isn't just an hour and a half or 2 hours once a week church. No, this is an everyday kind of church. It's so much deeper than just meeting here on a Sunday. It's much more meaningful than this. This is about being part of something bigger than just me, bigger than just gathering here on a Sunday. And we get to build this together. We get to pray together for this. We get to be the light together. But it requires contribution. It requires you take ownership of what is. I like the story that I think it's Eric Johnson or Banning Lipscher. He shares, I think it was Banning, he shares, he's part of his family is quite small, but so when he got married to his wife CJ, she's got a big family, and so they would get together at Thanksgiving, and it's like there's a lot of organizations, about 40, 50 people coming together. And he says from early on in their marriage, he was given the potato peeler. So he would literally sat there from the morning early and he would start peeling potatoes for making potato salad, and he say CJ's mum would put a lot of butter and cream and salt and make this massive dishes. So you can imagine feeding 40, 50, 60 people. And he says he would sit there and peel the potatoes. And then when they would sit down and everyone is seated and all the food is ready, he sit there like, man, yeah, I actually got to contribute to that potato salad. And he just started feeling good about himself. And he says, nowhere in his life did he ever had a passion that he would become a professional potato peeler. There was no ambition in him to go like, man, there's actually a calling for me at McDonald's or at Steers. I want to dedicate my life to peeling potatoes. But he says because he valued relationship and he values people, peeling potatoes, it's secondary. And that's what church is. Sometimes there's stuff that needs to take place. And a lot of us, it's amazing. So many of us serve you. You may not have a passion for what you're doing, but you have a passion for people. And you know by peeling your potato here in church, you will bless other people. Because you are bigger than just something small. See, there's something about being part of something bigger than just you and me. So you can look around and like, yeah, I contributed to that. Yep. I bought that 50 Rand ticket for the cutlery set. Or, you know what, I was part of the worship setup or looking after the cars this morning. And we take pride, we take ownership of that. And if I look around this room, I see so many people who take so much pride and care so well for our God Adventure family. I know this morning I'm speaking mainly to the choir, but it's hard work. It's like, if I look at our house, we've got an old house, so there's a lot of maintenance. And one of the things, especially in summer, I have to mow the lawn, and you have to mow the lawn at least once a week. And I'm like, I'm empowering leaders, so I'm raising young revivalists up at the moment to start doing that mowing for me. But before, when those young revivalists were still in training, most of the time I used to do it. And man, I used to get out there, and I'm having like this emotional war in my head, because I'm hot, I'm bothered, I'm a little bit irritated, and I'm grumpy, and I'm mowing the lawn. It takes you about 2 or 3 hours, and it's just a mission, and it's just so much that needs to happen, and 2 or 3 hours of my day. But you know what's incredible? Once I'm done, I'm like, wow, you see, look how nice the garden is mowed. Doesn't it look nice? Or people would come, it's like, wow, the garden looks nice. Yep. That was me. That was me. I'm done. When I know Jen's got similar struggles. So we've got this portable pool. So Jen's job is to clean the pool. And I know when she moves towards the pool, I move away from the pool. I'm just moving out of that environment, out of that atmosphere. Because I know, I can just see in her body language and her mind, there's a lot of having it done. But when she's done, she's like, wow, can I come and look how beautiful and clean the pool is? Why? Because you take ownership. And when you take ownership, you are proud. You are proud of what is being achieved. And that's the same here in God Adventure. I know sometimes I have to do this. But man, there's something when you take ownership. When you are proud of something, it's like, come and see what I'm part of. That's my people. I was actually part of what happened there. Why? Because we take ownership. We take pride in what we put our hands to. So your contribution, whether how big or how small, it makes a difference. But take pride of it. Take ownership of it. It's like, wow, man, I'm so privileged. I'm so blessed to be part of this. What God's doing in our city, I'm so proud of what the church is doing in East London. I'm so great for a praying church in South Africa. Man, I'm so grateful that I can be part of a movement called Jesus that is seeing more signs, wonders, and miracles, more people being raised from the dead in our generation than in any generation of church history. Man, I'm part of that. And so this morning, I hope you get my heart. This morning is just an invitation for you to, wow, we are so privileged actually to be alive in 2026, to be part of a glorious church. Now we can focus on the damp, and we can focus on everything that the church is getting wrong, not just here, but globally. We can focus on leaders who have failures. Or maybe it just reveals that they've become our idols. And we've elevated them above what Jesus is doing. Or we can say, God, I want to start taking ownership and praying for your church in the city. I want to be part of not just looking at what I need, but what your church needs. So I'm slowly going to start landing this plane, slowly. This morning I want to ask you this simple question, and whether you're part of the God Adventure family or not, I want to ask you this question. What is this place, or maybe the place where you come from, where you fellowship, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? Again, you may be here for a season of resting. You may be here for a season of restoration, or you just come here like a sponge and you soak it all up, or you are here to learn or grow or to find family or community or whatever it might be. But what does the place mean to you? Because this is who we are. This is who you are. This is who I am. And you have a role. You are so needed. You are so worthy. You are sacred. You're a temple of the Holy Spirit. You carry more than you know. And I'm gonna end with this story. When we lived in China, this is also about just under 30 years ago. Community, in a sense, was easy. We lived in a city of about probably 8 million people. That's a big city. Smallish city in China, but it's, in our context, that's massive. And there was a lot of foreigners. Well, there wasn't that many foreigners, but what was amazing is you started to get to know stuff about people. So I would walk around and I would know that I need to go and speak to Finnish Nana, because Nana, she knows where you can get butter. And then there was Susie from Britain, and I knew that Susie could get you flour. And so, as west as you, I would walk down a road, and there would be thousands of people, but you would see a Westerner, and you don't know them from a bar or so, but you just look at them and you would greet them, or because there was something that you had in common. You were Westerner, you stood out among all the Chinese people. But you started to get to know people, and then once a quarter, we used to gather together, all the foreigners in a building, and you get to know stuff about people. There's a flour person, there's a butter person. And you would know who the doctors were. So can I tell that story? So Jen became violently ill. There was a big rumble in the jungle. And her constitution just wasn't good. It was bad. So it got to the place where we need to get medical attention now. So we've heard, there's Dr. Dave. Dr. Dave phoned Dr. Dave from Australia. He's a doctor. And so we got the number for Dr. Dave. And so Jen picks up got the number. We would stay in the university, in the city where we were. And we know the apartment. And so Jen is on the phone explaining to Dr. Dave. Hasn't met the guy before, but this is Dr. Dave. So she phones Dr. Dave, explained to him, this is what's going on. And he's very compassionate. He says, well, just take a Imodium. And Jen is like, what the heck? If we are way beyond taking Imodiums right now. I don't need that advice from a doctor. And she continues like, well, what's going on? And then he's like, but there's a nurse across the hallway. Maybe I must get her. And she's like, why? Why is the doctor telling me he wants to go and get the nurse to come and tell me what's wrong with me? And she continues to explain to Dr. Dave what's wrong with her. And afterwards, it's like, that was a weird conversation. The guy didn't help me much. And then we came to discover it wasn't Dave from Australia. This was Dave from Peru, who she was speaking to. Who happened to move into Dave from Australia's flat. But it's amazing. You would walk into that little foreign community and you would know stuff about people. Some stuff, it's like they knew a lot about Jen, some of the people there. But it was easy because you had to there was something in common that we shared. You could communicate easily with one another, and you just feel more comfortable because people would understand you and get you. And you would almost, when you're in a community, you value those shared needs or those shared cultural expressions. And it's the same in this house. I want you to walk in here in the sun. It's like, man, I know stuff about other people. I've seen them in another context, and I know what they are like. I want us to be a people where you go out and you meet someone in the streets like, I know stuff. That's a God adventure person because they have similar values. They love the presence. They love to share testimonies. They share similar passion for worship. And they have a similar mindset when it comes to the kingdom. They love the prophetic. They love to pray for the sick. They love to care for one another. But I feel it's almost like we need to become more intentional about that. And then over the next couple of weeks, we're going to speak more about it maybe, or make it easier for you. Because there's a lot of things. There's a lot of people holding that God Adventure hologram picture. But they don't know how to tilt it in the right direction to see what else is available. There's a lot of things that are happening that other people may not be familiar with. So we want to create an environment where we know stuff about one another. That Sunday is our tribal gatherings, but family and relationship actually happens not just here on a Sunday, but also during the week. We want to make it more easier for you to have access to those environments. See, all life comes from Jesus, but growth happens through His people. And you can tell me that, man, we are the ecclesia and we are the church and I love Jesus and it's all fluid, but if you don't gather with people, then I would strongly, I'm speaking to people who are gathered here together, but maybe you know friends who are it's just me and Jesus. I want to tell you that Jesus is still going to love you, but you're just going to stay there. We need one another. We need one another. We need the different expressions of Jesus that makes this incredible thing called church possible. We can't just be in love with the head and not with the body.